So welcome to Sunday, our real-time update, and today's September 24th, 2017. And as you can see, we're still monitoring hurricanes in the Atlantic. Maria refuses to die, but we've been getting our own share of stuff around here a little bit lately as well. Not hurricane strength, but definitely some squalls. This is what our morning starts like inside Sophisticated Lady this morning. And this is what our morning starts like outside Sophisticated Lady this morning. Inside. Outside. Inside. Outside. Can you see the difference? But of course, if you compare it to what they were getting in Puerto Rico, which were these scenes here, then you can see that we've got nothing really to complain about. All we had was a big squall go through that was in the neighborhood of about 40-50 knots, and normally they only last about 10 minutes or so, but this one did stick around for over an hour, and we got a ton of rain, so I collected lots of rain that we're using for nice free showers in our water tank, so that's always cool. It came out of nowhere really, and there's nothing in the forecast saying that there was any big squally weather in the area, so. But that one just happened to come through and just put us all on alert, remind us that, hey, pay attention. You never know what's coming or when. So that's what we do. But yeah, back to Maria. Yeah, you can see that Maria is still here and spinning up just off the east coast of Florida. And she's still drawing most of her energy from the South Caribbean. You've still got Lee over here, and Lee is actually reformed into a hurricane again. Lee had dropped off and wasn't being tracked for a while, and then came back as a tropical storm, and now tracking as a hurricane again. We've got Jose is still spinning up here, but it's dropped off of tracking right now, so it's not actually being measured as a hurricane or tropical storm or anything. It's just sitting there as remnants, and Maria is still heading up towards it. And if you look, if we graduate through the days coming up this week, you'll see how Maria is just slowly moving up the coast and heading straight for the coast of the United States, where it looks to possibly just park itself offshore right off of Cape Hatteras at North Carolina there. And it looks like it might just stay there for the better part of a day before actually starting to move on back out into the Atlantic. So from the looks of the forecast, I mean, we've got some breaks in the weather here in Grenada. Our weather looks good for the next little while. St. Martin looks like it's going to be clear, so finally between St. Martin and Puerto Rico, it looks like they've got some mild days coming up, so I'm sure that's going to help out with some of the cleanup that they have going on up there. Haven't heard too much out of Puerto Rico. I know they were really hardly hit by Hurricane Maria. It was a dead hit across almost the entire island, and there's a lot of property damage. I don't think there's too much loss of life yet, but again, there's very few reports coming out. This is our friend Alberto, you'll remember from the last video, and he managed to get a couple of transmissions out with his cell phone when he was able to pick up signal.
This is 6:45, and the wind is really strong. It was blowing north, now blowing east. And let's see if we can see some in there. Oh, nice and wet out there. This is in the kitchen. This is the exhaust fan. It's actually dripping water. We had water coming in right on top of the stove. You see the drops in there. Never thought I'd ever come through that little hole on top, but it is. Learn something new. Hope there's not a next time, but if there is another one, I know I have to seal that up somehow. It is 8:15 right now in the morning. The gust of wind has been absolutely incredible. I mean, I've never seen anything like this, not even during Georges or Hugo.
And here's a few other short clips that people were able to get out when they could get communication out of the island during the storm. And here are some more pictures that have been trickling out of St. Martin and the British Virgin Islands, of course showing major devastation to the marine sector there, as both of them have major sailing and charter communities. And you can see that sector of the islands is pretty much wiped out. So this is going to be a very rough season for tourism in the Northern Caribbean. This picture here from the British Virgin Islands shows my friend Aragorn's art studio on the beach in Trellis Bay. This building hosted the biggest collection of authentic Caribbean artwork anywhere in the Caribbean, and that boat you see now adorning its doorstep would have been anchored in exactly the same position in Trellis Bay that I spent many years. This is the building right next door, built by the late Jeremy Wright, a very good friend of mine, and in fact the person who welcomed me into this beach community back in 2007. The building seems to have survived fairly well, but when you turn to the next side, you notice that this boat that's sitting beside it, Navigated, that was my next door neighbor in the anchorage for many years. So you can imagine how that feels knowing I could have been there right beside it. Right in the middle of Trellis Bay was a tiny island called Bellamy Key, which hosted one of the coolest places we hang out at all the time, called The Last Resort. And as you can see, it has been also completely destroyed. Because this is definitely a catastrophic event across the Caribbean, so this is not something you're going to fix with 1 or 2 boats going in there, especially this time of year. I'd love to say I could take Sophisticated Lady up there, but it really could be suicide, and especially if the next storm rolls in, just like back-to-back Category 5s that came in on St. Martin. If we were up there when that happens, we'd be sunk too, and then we'd be absolutely nowhere. So we have to stay where we're safest right now, and that is right here in Grenada. And we'll be here for the next while unless something forces us further south. When the sun has migrated past the equator into the northern hemisphere, and then of course June 21st being the longest day of the year in the northern hemisphere, that's the first day of summer, and now the sun starts to work its way back towards the south, and of course it's crossing the equator again as of September 21st and moving into the southern hemisphere as they come up on their summer period. So that's good news for us at least. It means that the Atlantic will slowly start cooling off as the sun has gone into the southern hemisphere, and that's when October usually starts to bring a decrease in the storms. November is usually almost completely storm free, but of course there have been a couple busters that have happened, and you know, it changes the rules. You never really know what's going to happen, but hopefully we are not going to experience anything nasty this October. All we can say is we're hoping, and touch wood. That's all we can do for now. So keep your thoughts, prayers on everybody out there that's needing help, and hopefully they get everything that they need as soon as possible. And everybody in the islands is doing everything they can, sending things up, trying to find ways to get to the islands and drop things off. But aside from that, we'll just keep you posted anything we hear. So you guys have a good Sunday. Hope all is well in your areas and not battling any fierce weather or storms or anything like that. And we'll talk to you again soon. So bye for now.